Hey everybody, Courtney with Smitty's Fly Box here. We're just going to be going over tying this little blueing olive nymph. Great little Euro pattern, great for these early season blueing olive hatches. Designed this fly to kind of work really well along skinny water, shallower runs, shallower riffles. So let's go ahead and get to tying it. All right, so this is for April's intermediate box, and this is a fun one to tie. Can challenge you, but it's a great fly to fish as well, so it's a good one to have in your box. And we're starting off here. We have an Orientsun 5241, nice little wide gap jig hook, and then we have a Round Rocks slotted tungsten bead in black nickel 3mm. So a little smaller, but I think it just works great, especially for these skinny water type situations where fish are feeding. It's not going to make a big splash and spook the fish. That's kind of why I made it this way, to have a smaller profile, smaller bead, so I could still throw a little nymph through these little runs when I see fish kind of working those shallower edges of the river. So first thing we're going to tie in is our tail. So I just started my thread along the hook. We're just wrapping back to just before the bend of the hook, and we're just going to take our olive strung hackle here. We're going to take a couple of these fibers off. So what I like to do is just take these fibers and just kind of preen them up. I'm going to get them standing up at a 90-degree angle off the stem, and I'll cut those. Okay, so I've probably got about a dozen or so there. I'm just going to measure those against the hook, and they're just going to be about half the length of the hook there. I'm going to pull my measurement back here to where my thread is, our tying point, and do a pinch wrap with my left hand, and just hold those fibers kind of on a slight angle off the near side of the hook. And bring my thread up and around in a loose gathering wrap, and as I come down, I'm going to pull down tight, and that should help seat those right up on top of the hook. Now I'm just going to bring my thread forward, just wrapping over these butt ends, and then I'll wrap right to the bead, and I'm going to stop right there and trim them out. Now this is a fly that I want to be pretty careful with about how many thread reps I'm getting up around the bead. You'll see as we get up here, you start to run out of room pretty quick, especially with this small bead here. I don't want to make a big thread collar on this fly, and so I'm going to try to keep those thread wraps pretty minimal at the front. So I'm going to wrap back to my tie-in point. We're going to tie in our abdomen. The abdomen for this fly is going to be some turkey biots. What I like to do here, as you can kind of see here, I've been picking at this one, is peel this off the stem rather than just cut it from the stem, and I'll show you why. Okay, I just peeled this off the stem there, and so this is from the butt end. So two reasons. I like to peel it off because it gives me a little extra length to work with as I'm wrapping this up the hook. And then the second reason is, if you can see this little notch right here, that's going to be my indication on whether I get a smooth body or more of a ribbed body. And I like a ribbed body on these flies. It's personal preference on what you want to do. So for a ribbed body, I'm going to tie this with the notch, this little notch right here, facing down. So I'm going to turn it around, so the tip of the feather is going to be going out the front of the hook. I still have the notch facing down, and I'm going to tie that in about here, almost halfway, probably about a third. Here, I want to tie it in where that feather's a little thicker. If I tie it up here, I'm just going to have to make a few more wraps to cover the body up. So we'll go back here where it's a little thicker, where we get the same coverage but less wraps. So just go ahead and do a loose wrap, gather that guy up, and tie him down right about where we started that tail. I'll just work forward again. Just good, even wraps here is all. Then we're ready to wrap this biot up the hook shank. So I'm going to use these little hackle pliers. I like to use these, so I don't have to use my fat fingers to try to hold this skinny feather. I'm going to grab that by the very tip. And then what I like to do is just take my thread. I'm going to use the rotary on my vise here. I'm going to take my thread, wrap it around my right hand pinky here, and just pull that thread forward around the front side of the bead. And then I can just slowly start to turn this. You'll see I start to get a nice little ridge from that quill. And I'm just going to try to make these segments nice and even as I go. You can kind of see that's that ribbed look I'm looking for. And as I'm turning that, my thread is not wrapping up the hook at all, so I'm not making any excess wraps here. You might only get 4, maybe 5 wraps out of that. I'm going to bring my thread up and over. I might go with my pliers and just do a few more wraps going back. Secure that biot down. Trim out our excess, and then we're ready to build our thorax. To start our thorax, we're going to take just some Mylar flash, just some pearl flash, and tie him right up on top of the fly there. And we're doing about a bead width of area here that we're going to be covering with our thorax. And so what we're going to do is add in our dubbing. And I'm going to use a very sparse amount of dubbing here. This is just olive, Antron bluing olive dubbing. I don't want very much. I'm going to roll that onto my thread and just start working that around my thorax area there. So again, I don't want a lot. You shouldn't have anything that's bigger than your bead, really. So I don't want that sticking up past my bead. Okay, so that's about right for the dubbing. Again, I don't want to bulk up right here at the thorax, especially by the bead, because it's going to make tying these legs in a little more difficult. And then also we're going to end up with a really big thread collar. So the less wraps, the better you can get away with. So we're just going to make very good wraps and securing this stuff down. So I folded my wing case forward. I'm going to fold it back again and just do 2 wraps over it. So I'm really going to limit how many wraps I do, but we're going to make each one of them count. So I've cut off for my legs just another little bit of that strung hackle, and same way I did the tail, I'm just going to go ahead and just, for these legs, I'm going to lay these against the side of the hook shank on the far side first, and I'll pinch those in with my left hand. I'm going to come around with a loose wrap, and as I come towards the camera, I'm going to pull tight. I'm going to do one more wrap and pull tight. And I'll stop right there. Okay, so now I've got those legs sticking out from the far side of the hook. I'm going to do one wrap here just in front of the butt ends. Just kind of slide it right along the bead. And that's going to help just kind of pinch those butt ends down and kind of secure them in. I'm going to finish that. I'm going to secure them a little bit better at the end, but that'll kind of help hold those. And then I can come in with my scissors and just trim out these butt ends as close as I can. I'm not going to worry about a few of those nubs in the end though. Okay, then we'll repeat that process here on the near side. You're just going to hold those just tight against the hook and bring my thread up and around. And I'm just going to pull down tight as I go down towards the desk and get those wrapped in. And then I'll peel this butt end back and again do 2 wraps right in front. And then I'm just going to take my scissors again and just trim these out just close. Okay, so now that we've got the legs tied in, I'm just going to secure these up and then we'll do our whip finish. I'm just going to come back here, kind of pull everything back that I can, and just do a few wraps right here behind the bead. Okay, and then from there, I'm going to add just a touch of, you can use super glue or you can do UV resin. I'm just going to use a little bit of this UV Flow from Loon. This didn't come in your box, but if you have a little bottle of super glue or UV like this, you could easily add this on. I just beat it up a little bit on the thread wraps, and then I'm just going to come around, right around my collar, like so. That's going to seep down into the thread. I'm going to do my whip finish. And that'll make a nice clean exit to our fly there. So that's the blue wing olive nymph. Great little fly to fish. We love fishing this one. I've loved fishing this one so far this year. It's been fun. So tie up a bunch. Let us know how you do with it. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep getting videos every month from us. But yeah, that's what we're doing. So blue wing olive, time of year. Go get after it.